Welcome to week 6 of the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. I'm Stephen Orr, joined with Mark Finkner as we reach the halfway point of the season, at least for us. Mark, it's dead week, a lot of open games this week, but there's still plenty of good games on the board.
Oh, my goodness. The quality outlasts the quantity of games this week. And the fact that this is a semi-rivalry week. I mean, there's no less than 15 games out there on the board that you look at, and teams are very, very familiar with each other, even if they're not in the same districts.
And when I look at your top 7 games of the week, there's 2 that just jump right out at me. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. But top-notch games.
Oh, absolutely, boy. 0 or 1 loss pretty much rules the roost this week.
All right, we'll dig into all that when we come back on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Mark, time for a look at your big 6 or 7 games on the board, starting with a really good one. Amarillo High travels to Shotwell to take on Abilene. Don't you know War Eagle is glad to be back home after a three-week road trip that was really, really tough?
Well, it was. Well, let's see. Well, they lost to Permian. Then they lose to Midland Legacy. Then they come back and they beat Caprock, and they beat them soundly last week, 42-7. But now this game, the winner has the inside track to the 2-5A1 title. In this matchup a year ago, it was Abilene in a high-scoring affair. I don't know that we'll see 63-42 again like we saw a year ago. I think both teams play good enough defense. Abilene a slight favorite in this game, as you would expect at home. My initial thought when I look at this game is, okay, Amarillo is just like the epitome of efficiency. They're very workmanlike in what they do. Abilene a little bit more flashy. Because of Braden Henry at quarterback, and him versus Jet Lopez at Amarillo High is going to be a great quarterback matchup in this one. Ultimately, you make me pick, and I'm going to lean the home team here in Abilene to come out and get a close game. They're expecting it to be close. I think it will be just that, but I just think Abilene at home, slight advantage here, maybe just a little more athleticism than Amarillo High, but this ought to be a great ball game. But again, the winner goes to 2-0 and 2-5A1. Huge game for both, but I think Abilene's slightly better.
Abilene Cooper, the Cougars travel across Abilene to take on the Wiley Bulldogs. Abilene Cooper should be feeling great after a week 1, what many consider upset over Wichita Falls Memorial. And now they're taking on a really tough Wiley Bulldog team. This has the makings of a great ball game right now.
Well, the Southtown showdown this week between Cooper and Wiley. Now think about this, though, because Wiley for so long was a 3A, and they were near the top of 3A for so long. There was a running joke that, like, Abilene Wiley knew what the cutoff number was, and they'd always report 2 less. There was just that joke that went around for a while. And
right.
then in 14, Wiley and Lubbock Cooper both, go straight from 3A to 5A. When they expanded to 6A, they finally expanded. They would have been 4A in a 5A system, but then became 5A in a 6A system. And it took Wiley a little bit, but this matchup, only the 8th meeting all time between these two. Wiley definitely a big advantage last year at Shotwell, winning 29-7. You're right. Cooper feels good, but are they able to ground themselves and get after it? I think they will, but I do think Wiley wins in this spot because they had to struggle against Legacy. I think in some respects that they probably left, even though they won by 21, there's a bitter taste in their mouth, so to speak. And I really think Wiley comes out at home and they get to 2-0. And again, considering what else happened in this race, and we'll talk about it more in just a minute. But, man, again, like 2-5A1, the winner of this game gets to 2-0 and has the inside track in 2-5A2.
Paladura hits the road to take on a Wichita Falls Memorial team that came out on the other end of that. Cooper lost last week. Abilene Cooper. Paladura's been playing, I think, above what I expected to start the year, but this is a really tough game for them.
Well, it is, but remember 2 weeks ago, Paladuro shut out Amarillo High in the second half on their way to that 35-14 win over the Sandies. So I think from that perspective, they've had 2 weeks. Is it more, okay, we've been able to celebrate this, and now it's time to get back to business against Wichita Falls Memorial, who knows if they lose at home this week, they're out as far as the district championship is concerned. Put Memorial against the wall, and I think the Mavericks come out swinging. This is one service thinks Paladuro is going to go on the road and win. I do not. I think Memorial backed up against the wall after what happened last week. They can't go 0-2. They know it, and I think they come out at home. And our man Corey Hogue will talk about this Friday night on the scoreboard. But I like Memorial here with their backs against the wall.
Lubbock Cooper Liberty goes to take on Midland Greenwood. Cooper Liberty each week stepping up their game. They came in just shy of having 3 weeks of 60 points, but I don't think they've played a team, even with Seminole, I don't think they played a team as tough as what they're going into, and Midland with the home field advantage.
Well, I tell you what, congrats to Joe Sexton and his Liberty Patriots for the first time ever in the state rankings in the top 10 this week. Is Cooper Liberty at number 9, Greenwood up a spot to number 6. So you got 2 of the top 9 teams in the state going at it, both at 5-0. But Stephen, to your point, and we talk about this all the time, it's not so much Greenwood's offense, it's their defense, and how Cooper Liberty, if they are able to get more than 21 against Greenwood, then I think Liberty has a real shot. But at Greenwood, this is going to be a huge obstacle for the Patriots. I mean, who knows? These two could meet at some point down the road. You know, I think these two teams, along with Brock right now, and Estacado kind of looming right there, are kind of the teams at the top of 4A Division II and Region 1. These are 2 of the very best after Brock. This could be who knows? We could see this like Thanksgiving weekend or maybe even later. But I do like Greenwood at home here. Boy, I keep taking the home team this week. Maybe there's a trend here.
Game that jumps off the board at me, Coahoma taking on Littlefield. This was a basketball game last year, 71-70. Coahoma coming off big win last week. Littlefield has been playing quality ball. This has the makings of a good one, although I don't think we see a 71-70 shootout.
But I think we could see the winner get to 50. That would not surprise me. Littlefield they've scored at least 31 in all 5 of their games, and in 4 of them 38 or more. So I think they are definitely capable of rolling up big numbers on offense, but I think Coahoma is too. Now, last year at Coahoma, 141 points. It's not going to be that crazy, I don't think, again. But I do think these two teams can rack up points. As much in some respects as I'd like to take Littlefield, I think the overall body of work with these two teams, I feel like Coahuma's is slightly better than Littlefield's, and that's why I want to take Coahoma on the road in this one.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at some of the best matchups in your area on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Mark, time to take a look at the Panhandle and start off with a really interesting game to me where you've got Canadian traveling to take on Shallowater. Shallowater lost a hard game last week against Idalou. Now they've got the Wildcats coming in. No rest for the weary.
No, I mean, when you talk about the challenge that Shallowater has in front of them this week, I mean, I would not have expected the Mustangs to be 2-3 at this point. However, they have played a very good schedule. They've played up against some folks, and Coach Vincent's team's going to be just fine when they get into district play here soon. But I don't think for Canadian it matters where you play them, home, road. I mean, remember they went to Muleshoe 2 weeks ago and put up 65. So they put up 69 against Sunray. Canadian is just rolling people right now. Now, Shallow Water's defense will provide some more resistance than Sunray, obviously, this week. But I just don't see Shallow Water putting up enough to slow the Wildcats down. I don't know that Canadian puts up 60, but I think that this is a game that if they play well and just don't turn it over, they win comfortably.
Idalou wins that game last week pretty convincingly over Shallow Water. Now they just do nothing but welcome the Wall Hawks to town. And Wall won this game last year 33-10. I kind of see that playing out the same.
I could as well. I mean, Wall is up to number 2 in the state, and people are still they're already talking Canadian Wall in the regional final. Let's kind of tap the brakes just a little bit. Are they the 2 best teams in 3A2 Region 1 right now on paper? Yes. Could they meet in the regional final again? Yes. But this will be a great test for Idalou. They do get them at home this week. That could be helpful. And of course, coming off that huge win for Shallow Water, over Shallow Water, Idalou sitting there in a good spot. But yes, they will have to play their best game to this point if they're going to have a shot to beat the number 2 team in the state.
West Plains takes on Argyle Liberty Christian. Is this the toughest contest for West Plains so far this year?
Probably. Now, it doesn't seem like Argyle Liberty is quite the same team as they were a year ago under the former Dallas Cowboy Jason Witten. But I do think this is a great trip for West Plains. Still sitting there at number 2 in the state in 4A Division 1 this week. Argyle Liberty's already played a district game, so they're stepping outside of district to play West Plains here in the back end of the home and home. They played last year, of course, at Buffalo Bowl at Happy State Bank Stadium last year. It will be interesting to me, considering, Stephen, that their long road trip coming off a bye. Is there going to be some rust? And I think that's something that Coach Adam Cummings and his staff can really talk to his team about and really get them dialed in. I do think this game is close. I think it's fairly competitive, but I think West Plains pulls away and wins on the road just because I think this is a team that is destined for great things. Now, whether that means getting to Jerry World or not, who knows? But I do think Canyon West Plains, don't be surprised if they struggle or even trail early on in this game, but I do think eventually the Wolves' talent, especially on offense, eventually wins out.
The Hereford Whitefaces welcome the Seminole Indians. Hereford at 1-3. They've been in a lot of their games, but what do you think about Seminole coming to town?
Well, I think there's going to be a ton of points. I mean, both teams really like to throw the ball. Both teams have got great quarterbacks. To me, this is a game, kind of like Kahoma and Littlefield, like we talked about earlier. I mean, it could be a lot of points. Now, again, not ridiculous, but I do think that the winner of this game is going to have to get into the 40s because I think there's enough good skill on both teams to put it in the end zone a lot. So it's going to be whichever defense can force a turnover, get a stop here and there. I definitely see this game, and I could see Hereford winning at home. I think this is a 42-35 game. Not going to surprise me whichever side wins.
Bushland's at 1-4. They're going to go up and take on the Perryton Rangers that sit at 3-2. And Perryton seems to have improved every week. But look at the difficulty of Bushland's schedule. Last year, Bushland rolled in this one.
They did, but I tell you what, Cooper Schilling, the quarterback at Perryton, has just, he's kind of like Seth Mayberry at Plainview, a guy who started a long time, hasn't been on great teams, and has kind of been overlooked. Now in his senior year, he's doing some things and just helping Perryton get better and better. I mean, Bushland, the last time they were 1-4 to start a year 2012, but they won 3 of their last 4. They actually went to 1-5 before winning 3 of their last 4 and then winning a playoff game. So for fans, the Falcons, do not panic, even if Perryton were to win this game at home this week, because I mean, yes, Bushland's guaranteed a playoff spot because they're in a 14 district, but they're not going to be the number 4 seed. Okay, they've just got too much talent there. But you're right, Stephen. They played a great schedule. Don't let the record fool you. I think it's a close game, but I lean Perryton in this one.
Muleshoe came up short against Clyde last week. Now they go up to the very corner of the Panhandle to take on Dalhart.
Another toughie for Muleshoe. Now, this is a game where you better score in this matchup because in 5 of the last 6 years that these two have played, the winner has scored 42 points or more. So I do think you're going to have to score and score often in this game. This one kind of feels a little bit like Seminole Hereford. I think there's going to be a lot of points put up on the board, but I like the Golden Wolves at home.
The Valley Patriots travel up to take on the Claude Mustangs. Claude has pretty much everything in front of them right now. Valley, again, we've talked about their schedule, but they've come up short in their last 2 games. In the second half, they've been in it until the second half.
And I tell you, this is going to be a game that comes right down to the end. I think this is a full 40-minute game. I do not see the mercy rule by any stretch of the imagination here. Yes, Claude is 4-1, Valley is 0-5. This is not going to surprise me if Valley gets their first win of the year, but at the same time, it's not going to surprise me because Claude is really trending up. This is a great tune-up actually for both teams before they get ready for district play.
About 30 seconds left. The Boys Ranch Rough Riders take on Amarillo Picha, looking to get back in the win column, go to 5-1.
Well, after their 2-point loss last week, I think Coach Lewis Kelly going to get the old Rough Riders ready to go, and I think they get to 5-1, and I think they do it handily against Pachia, who at 3-2. Nice start for Pachia, their best ever.
All right, when we come back, more great matchups on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Stephen Orr along with Mark Finkner. And Mark, time to go to the South Plains, look around the Lubbock area. A couple of really good matchups there that I'm excited to see. We talked about a couple in the last segment, but Wall Hawks come to Idalou to take on the Wildcats. Idalou coming off a big win last week over Shallow Water. Now they take another step up in the level of competition they're playing.
Well, when you play a team like Wall that is ranked as high as number 2 in the state this week, yeah, you definitely got your hands full. If you're Coach Clay White and the Wildcats, you got to get over that Shallow Water win quick, and definitely have had a great week of preparation for Wall. Getting them at home, there's a shot, but they will have to play their very best game of the year to have a chance here against the Hawks. Because I do think Wall is probably the premier team in 3A Division II in this region. Some may say it's Canadian. Obviously, Idalou has staked their claim to be amongst the upper echelon, but they will have to play really well. They got to force a couple of turnovers. If they could do that and get a couple of short fields or get a big play in the specialty game, then the Cats have a shot. But they do have to play their very best game. They can't put the ball on the ground. They can't have some 3 and outs. They've got to have sustained drives to try to make this happen. I mean, yes, obviously Wall is the choice here, but I do think Idalou, if they can make a few things happen, they can at least keep it close. And anytime you're trying to pull an upset, the longer you keep it close, then the other side gets a little nervous, starts playing tight. So this is going to be a fun game in Idalou on Friday night, but I'd lean towards Wall here.
Shallow Water, we mentioned them losing to Idalou last week. Well, now they just step up and take on the Canadian Wildcats at home. And Shallow Water's non-district schedule has been one of the more difficult ones. And I think they've got their hands full when Canadian comes.
They do. I mean, they have played a really good schedule. They've played some 4As here in the non-district. But to get one of the premier teams in Canadian, they played them last year. In Canadian now this year, you get them at Todd Field in Shallow Water. Shallow Water's defense is going to give some resistance to Canadian after what they've been able to do the last 2 weeks, put up 65 and 69 the last 2 weeks. I don't know if it will be enough resistance. But again, kind of like Wall and Idalou, if Shallow Water can get some turnovers, do some things to give themselves, be opportunistic, short field, things like that, then maybe they've got the different story. But until somebody is able to really slow Canadian down, there's a reason that Coach Cavalier's team is 5-0. They are so good on the offensive side, and they just keep racking it up. You've got to find a way to stop them. Shallow Water's got good players. I don't know if they got enough. We'll see.
Coach Jimmy Arias and the Dimmitt Bobcats make the trip to Slayton to take on a team that, if I told you at the beginning of the year, both of these teams would be 4-1 when they faced off, you might not have believed me. But I think Slayton may have had a little bit tougher schedule going into this game.
Well, they have, but Dimmitt has truly been one of the surprises so far in this season. I mean, the fact that, there have been plenty of years here recently where they haven't won 4 games, and here they are at 4-1. And right now in that district, they could be seen as the number 2 team in 1-3A2 behind Canadian. When you start looking at the standings, that's where they're at. Canadian's 5-0, Dimmitt's at 4-1, Childress in after them. But what he has done and just getting the numbers up, and we've mentioned that before, but it is just so imperative when when you get into 3A, 2A, and in any classification, you gotta have good numbers. But Dimmitt has been down for a long time, and it's because the numbers haven't been there. But give the Bobcats their props. They've beaten almost everybody in front of them. They're 4-1. Slayton also 4-1. But to your point, Stephen, I think Slayton's played a little better schedule, and the fact that they're at home. Give me the Tigers over the Bobcats in this one. I think Slayton is the team that goes to 5-1.
Lubbock Cooper Pirates return home, and they're smarting a little bit after coming up short against Plainview. I think they'll be completely focused on Wichita Falls legacy.
They have to be if they want any shot at a district championship still. Now, they've got to run the table, and they and Memorial both have got to run the table and hope that whoever wins between Abilene Cooper and Abilene Wiley stumps their toe somewhere before the race is done. Of course, Wiley's still got to play Memorial. Obviously, there's some things to be worked out there. But to your point, Cooper's got to come back. They've just got to be focused, ready to go. Now, whether Ryan Rodriguez, the quarterback, will be back, who knows? He was hurt early in that second quarter against Plainview, but do not take anything away from what the Bulldogs did. They won. It was no fluke that Plainview beat Cooper last Friday night. They just outplayed them, especially in that first half when they got up 30-14, and in the second half just really did not let. In fact, Liberty did not. Lubbock Cooper did not score in the second half last week. It was 30-22 at the half. It ended up 37-22. But all that to say, Chip Darden and great coaching staff at Cooper, they're going to come back. They're going to win big. Now, Stephen, before we get away, definitely want to talk a little bit about Coronado Monterey, meeting for the 61st straight year. Every year since Coronado opened in the mid-'60s, Monterey leads the series, although it's been competitive. It's really in 60 meetings, 36-23-1. Now, there was a time where Coronado dominated this series recently, but Monterey's won the last 2 years. They won big. They're going to I think Monterey wins again big, but Coronado showed me a little heart and a little fight last week in their opener against Tascosa, playing them even in the first half, 28 apiece. So there's some things there for Coach Andrew Roy to work off of. Always a great atmosphere. It's going to be a full house at Lowry Field on Friday night. But I do think Monterey, much like they did last year, they lost the opener at Amarillo High, then won 5 in a row. Can they do that again? It starts here. But I'm going to be intrigued to see, make sure Monterey doesn't overlook Coronado, and if Coronado can do some things to build upon what they had against Tascosa last week.
Couple of quick hitters there. We'll have to go fast. Andrews at Estacado, and then Prosper Richland Cubs to Lubbock Christian.
Well, I like Estacado at home to be able to take care of business there. And then Prosper Richland and Lubbock Christian, you got a school with over 1,000 kids, Lubbock Christian with about 140 kids. Yeah, you're not going to see this matchup very often. And Coach Chris Softly, he's got his team fired up. They are ready. There's been some scheduling questions. A team dropped them, Brownfield, and now they had to find somebody like Prosper Richland to take their place. Ought to be a great environment at Mass Capital Ryder Field.
All right. When we come back, we'll have more great matchups on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Mark, time to go down to Texoma, Wichita Falls area, take a look around, and let's start with Iowa Park taking on Peaster. And as we heard last week, Iowa Park really suffering from the injury bug right now.
That they are. I mean, they had several injuries in their last outing. They were off this past week, so playing in the 4-3A1 opener this week. But they get Peaster, who beat Vernon last week. Close game, 29-22. Boy, I know Coach Brian Wood would hope that or wish that this game was at Iowa Park. It is not. We'll see, though, because they've had 2 weeks to prepare with the injuries, whether they have any of those guys. I mean, 2 of them we know are out, a third may be out, to see how the new pieces fit in. But boy, having to take on a team that really Peaster should be in the top 10. I mean, they're an outstanding team. This is a tough test for Iowa Park here. I mean, Peaster's 5-0, 1-0, and I'm sorry, I think I mentioned them against Vernon last week. It was actually Paradise against Vernon last week. My apologies, because you got Ponder, Peaster, Paradise all in that district. So my apologies there. But nonetheless, Peaster on the verge of being a top 10 type team in that district. They're 5-0 on the year. This would be a huge win for Iowa Park if they can get it. But I just think Peaster playing too good right now.
Childress coming off a tough loss to City View last week. Now they're going to take on the Stratford Elks. Now, Stratford, a 2A team, but they are certainly a good one.
Well, they are. And the fact that Stratford getting back into the top 10 this week in the AP at number 10 this week at 4-1, Childress at 3-2. This ought to be just a good old-fashioned hard knock kind of game. To me, this feels like a 20-14 type game, one way or the other. Not many people go into Childress and win, like happened to them last week. Now Childress has got to go on the road, little us versus the world mentality, long road trip to Stratford. But can the Elks step up? We shall see. Again, this has the makings of more of a defensive kind of game this week.
Vernon takes on Ponder, another one of those P teams there. Vernon won this one 38-35 last year, but they're on the road this year.
That they are. And Vernon, after playing Paradise last week, this is a game they got to have if they're going to be in the mix for a district championship. They can't be in the hole at 0-2. The Lions, but this is a big challenge. I mean, Ponder's undefeated. They're at 4-0. I mean, this 4-3-A1 is a meat grinder. I mean, you talk those 3 P teams, Vernon and Iowa Park. I mean, 5 really legit football teams in that district. It's just tough that Vernon gets 2 of the better ones back to back to open up with. This would be a big ask, although one service thinks Vernon is the favorite. They are a slight pick by 2, according to one. But this could be a really good game. But man, it's just hard for me to pick against Ponder at home. This has the feelings of like a 28-21 type game. Not super high scoring, not super low scoring, but I just think Ponder will make enough plays at home.
Wichita Falls Legacy hits the road to take on the Cooper Pirates. And Cooper kind of hurting from last week. Legacy trying to just improve upon what they've been doing each week.
Well, and to that point, Stephen, I mean, they were in the game for a long time against Abilene Wiley last Friday at home. So if Legacy will use that and just Who knows? I mean, but if you're Cooper, you can't let one loss become two, because like some of these other teams that we talked about, I mean, like we've already talked about Memorial, you can't lose two in a row and be in the running for a district championship. I mean, I don't know that a team in 2-5A2 goes and runs the gamut. Uh, to me, Wiley might be the only team, but I mean, they could lose to Cooper. They could lose to Memorial. I just think this 2-5A2 this year is not going to be a team run the table. I just think everybody's going to stump their toe somewhere, because there's just enough depth. And now when you add Plainview into the mix, and Paladuro, I mean, you got five, maybe even six really good teams, and Legacy showing a lot here. But this would be a huge ask. All that to say, this is a huge ask for Legacy to try to go to Pirate Stadium at First United Bank Park and beat Lubbock Cooper. That's not going to happen. I just think Chip Darden and his staff too good, and they'll have the guys focused and ready. Now, are they playing a freshman quarterback? They playing a senior quarterback? That could be a big question as far as the potential difference in the margin of this game, whether Ryan Rodriguez is able to play or not.
Windthorst and Mundy both at 3-2. Windthorst travels to the Moguls. Last year it was all Windthorst. Mundy didn't even find the scoreboard. Can this game be closer this year?
Yes, it can be. I mean, Windthorst has won the last three in the series now. But to say it's going to be closer, I mean, really, what are you saying? 62-0? Oh, okay. If it's 61-0, it's closer. It won't be that kind of game. I mean, Mundy is better, but Windthorst really needing to make a statement here to try to just put their stamp on the fact that they still are at the top of the mountain. They still are the team to beat in the district race in 7-2A2. I like the Trojans, and I think that they take care of business comfortably.
Electra blew out Petrolia last year 50-12, but this year Petrolia is 4-1, Electra 2-2.
And Petrolia at home, make them 5-1 when I think the night's over. Give me Petrolia to take care of business against the Tigers of Electra.
In six-man action, Knox City takes on the Paducah Dragons. Paducah, sneaky good team so far in six-man football.
Well, they've snuck themselves into the top 10 at number 10 in the AP poll this week. Knox City getting their first win last week. So two teams trying to trend in the right direction, but I mean, you got Paducah at 5-0, you got Motley County at 5-0 in that 2-2A2 race. So I mean, this would be, again, big for Knox City. Glad that they got off the schneid last week to get their first win. But that, I just don't see it being two in a row. Give me the Dragons to go to 6-0.
Bowie Goldberg host Vernon Northside. Last year, Goldberg won this one by 40. But Vernon Northside, a team that is not the same team as last year.
No, and Northside, I think, will take care of business here against Bowie Goldberg, still looking for win one of the year.
All right. When we come back, we'll have more great matchups on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Mark, let's go talk Big Country and Concho Valley. And let's start with Stephenville traveling to Longview to take on Ruston, Louisiana. Last year, this was a very one-sided affair. Ruston's already knocked off Midland Legacy, a 6A team. Can Stephenville tighten things up a little bit?
Well, I don't know. I mean, last year when they played Ruston was the number one team in all Louisiana. This year, doggone, the Bearcats are just slacking off. They're the number 3 team in all of Louisiana going into this one this week. But yeah, Stephenville, a huge task in front of them to meet in this neutral site game against Ruston. I would think that Coach Doty and the Yellow Jackets just want to put up a good performance, don't get hurt, and you learn some things when you play against a high-level team like this. I mean, you don't know much about them. I mean, obviously they do because they've scouted them long and hard this week, but I do think it's a closer game. But it's one that that I kind of like to see. And I hope that even if Stephenville, if they get beat badly, I hope that they're not really penalized for this in the rankings, going out of state to play one of the very best teams in all of Louisiana. The Jackets ranked number 4. Even if they lose and lose big, I hope that they're not penalized in the rankings. But we'll just see what Stephenville has to offer in this one. But I do think Ruston, considering they've beaten Longview and Legacy, as you mentioned, Stephen, it feels like Stephenville would be a not a gimme win for them. I mean, they'll have to earn it, but I feel like it's last year was 63-17. This year it might be more like 42-17.
The Wall Hawks go on the road. They try to keep that perfect record as they take on the Idalou Wildcats. Idalou off a big win over Shallowater last week. And I think this is Idalou's toughest test so far this year.
100%. That they definitely facing the number 2 team in the state in Wall. Yeah, if they're able to somehow win this game, boy, man, you turn 3A2 kind of on its ear a little bit if Idalou were to upset them, because it's already being talked about Canadian and Wall for the regional championship, just like last year. But Idalou could definitely throw a monkey wrench in all that if they could get a win here this week. But this could be the first of 2 meetings between these two. Of course, being in the same region, could meet again. But I do think that if Idalou is going to have any shot, they got to shorten the field. They got to get a couple of turnovers, do something special in the specialty game with special teams, a big return, a block kick, something along those lines to help them. But man, Wall just feels like they've been a machine. This would be a huge ask. I don't see how, but again, that's why you line up and play them.
The Big Spring Steers are 3-1. They host the Fort Stockton Panthers. Now, Big Spring lost this game last year 44-20, but I think they're a better team.
They are. Now, Fort Stockton, though, is starting to play better under first-year coach DJ Howell. Big Spring, a little bit of a surprise at 3-1, so don't underestimate the Steers, but I want to see them do it in this spot. If Big Spring wins in this spot, they will make me a much bigger believer in what they're doing. And to me, if they win this game, then suddenly you have to think about Big Spring, along the lines of with Andrews and with Lakeview. And suddenly this could become a 3-team race in a 4-team district for that top spot. So to me, this is a big spot. This is one I think Big Spring needs more than Fort Stockton, but can they get it? Close. But I until they prove it, I'm gonna stick with Fort Stockton.
Well, you mentioned San Angelo Lakeview. They host Burnett. They try to get back on the winning track after losing their first game of the season to Levelland last week. They get to try to do that at home.
Well, and Burnett just at 1-4 there in that same district with Stephenville, with Lampasas, who are both undefeated. Brownwood, of course, has been a little up and down this year, although they're a big favorite this week against Ingleside that we'll talk about in a minute. But how do the Lakeview Chieftains bounce back after rallying last week against Levelland but come up short? They just don't need to let one loss become 2 losses. I think at home, if Lakeview were going on the road, I'd kind of wonder about that a little bit, because it's a team that's not used to being successful when they get off this great start and then their balloon bust. It's burst. How do they come back? If they were on the road, I think it'd be tougher. At home, give me the Chieftains. I think they take care of Burnett and go to 5-1.
Brownwood surprised me a little last week with a win over China Spring. They now travel to Ingleside looking for a 2-game winning streak there.
Well, and they, like we mentioned, getting the 20-10 win last week for the Lions, now 2-3. Big favorite this week against Ingleside from South Texas. And give me the Lions, get to 3-3 before they get into district play starting next week. They're in 4-4A1.
Let's talk about the Haskell Indians taking on Seymour, 2 teams that are already in survival mode in the district. race, as it seems anyway, with these teams both needing a win here to keep their what you would think would be their chances alive.
Right, for in the playoffs. I mean, both Haskell and Seymour losing last week. They're at 0-1. They're in 6-2-8-2. The loser just can't. Boy, you'd be in a tough spot to start 0-2 and still fight your way back to get into a spot where you could be in the postseason. So this is truly one of those survival games. But I just think Haskell, better football team here. Give me the Indians. I know they're going to Seymour, but give me the Indians in this spot.
Crosstown in San Angelo, Grape Creek coming off a huge win over Tahoka last week. They take on San Angelo TLCA, who's still hunting the win column.
Yeah, 3-2 versus 0-4 with these two going at it. The 10th all-time meeting. Grape Creek won last year. Steven, do you remember that game? 74-0. Ooh. But TLCA won 2 years ago, 35-12. So can San Angelo TLCA, at home, getting to play as a home team, but they're going to have to show it to me. Until they do, give me. It's not going to be 74-0 like last year, but give me Grape Creek in this spot.
Right, and Grape Creek routed Tahoka last week. I was surprised. Were you?
41-0.
They won, but the route.
Right, 41-0. Yes, sir. That was definitely one of the more head scratchers in the first 5 weeks of the season.
All right, when we come back, more great matchups on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back, Mark. It's time to go down to the Permian Basin, take a look at a great slate of games. Let's start with a couple of teams that are struggling, but it's a rivalry game, and those are always good. Got Monahans traveling to Pecos.
Yeah, these two meeting for the 93rd time this week. All time. Monahans definitely a big advantage, 64-24-4. They've won the last 5. They won 62-6 last year. Pecos has not won the series since 2019. So obviously when you get into a rivalry game like this, and we've kind of talked a little bit, we kind of teased it at the very beginning of the show tonight, that this is rivalry week, maybe with a question mark, because you look and there's at least 15 games on the board, and this is one of them where teams are close to one another. They're not necessarily in the same districts, but they are close to one another. And this is one of those that, I mean, they've been playing a long time. But all that to say, Monahans has just had a tough time figuring it out offensively. Pecos with a couple of wins. Nothing is going to surprise me in this game unless it's 40 plus one way or the other. I mean, I see a scenario where Monahans can ground out enough, do some things, and win a 21-14 type game. I could see where Pecos, if it gets a little bit more high scoring, you feel like that it's more to their benefit. So again, maybe Monahans keeping the score lower helps them, which is, boy, that's kind of anti what Monahans has been about the last few years, but that may be their route to success here, going on the road to Pecos.
Round robin district play, Crane taking on Alpine and Odessa Compass taking on Anthony. Crane really needs a district win here.
Well, they do after losing to OCA last week. They've got to come back after, and of course, Alpine beat Anthony last week in the first game of the double round robin. So both of those games hold different meanings. Now, of course, all 4 are going to the playoffs. But, man, we talked about it last week that the OCA Crane winner felt like that you had the upper hand. And, boy, you start looking at this district and the district standings. OCA at 4-1, 1-0. They had a tri-championship with Crane and Alpine. They all went 4-2 last year. But I think that this may be the year for OCA to get their first outright district championship. They get Anthony at home. This should be a win. They get to 5-1, 2-0 in the district. And suddenly that other game, Crane and Alpine, then becomes huge, because next week OCA and Alpine play. Could be that could be the actual game that determines who is the ultimately the number 1 seed coming out of 3-3-A2. with Alpine getting their first win of the year, beating Anthony. So you feel like that on paper, Crane comes back, they beat Alpine, they go on the road and do it there. Now these two, this is the 68th meeting between these two, and Crane has won about 2/3 of the meetings. Crane won at home 29-16. Alpine won the second one 19-16 at home. Crane's won 7 of the last 8, but Alpine, they're going to feel confident after their win against Anthony, but I do think that Crane and OCA are the teams that win here in round 2 of the double round robin this week.
Team we haven't talked much about this year, Lenora Grady. They're 5-0. They host 1-4 Wellman Union, and Grady's a team that kind of has at least slipped under my radar a little bit.
Well, they have, and I mean they've been sneaky good. They've been one of those teams that, as far as 6-man teams that are still undefeated, they're amongst them out there. There's 22 of them that are still undefeated, and Grady is one of them. I don't think they have a problem this week. Once they get into district play, let's see what happens. But yeah, Grady's a team that is, you're right, Steve. We have not given the Wildcats nearly the love and respect that they have earned. Not that they're due, but that they have earned. And I don't see them having much of a problem against Wellman Union, who's lost 4 in a row since their week 1 win against Spurs. So give me the Wildcats, and I think this will be an easy 45er for them.
Westbrook and Garden City face off, and Garden City, a historic team in 6-man football. Garden City's at 3-2, Westbrook at 3-1. I kind of lean towards Westbrook, but it's at Garden City.
Right. And Garden City has kind of been Westbrook's kryptonite a little bit. Now, remember when Westbrook won the state championship in 21 and 22, Garden City beat them both years in the regular season. Beat them both years. This is the 16th meeting. Westbrook leads at 8-7. But since then, Westbrook has won 3 in a row. Now, in 22, they played in the regular season. Garden City won. Then in the playoffs, they play again, and Westbrook beat them. So they've won 3 in a row. They won last year, high-scoring game, 76-52. I do think Westbrook is the choice to go ahead and get to 4-1 and start getting themselves ready for 7-1A play. But Garden City has played better this year than they have the last couple. This ought to be a fun game. Westbrook has to be careful here. Sure can't overlook them. And I think because it's been recent enough and it's the same coaching staff in place at Westbrook, I don't think they overlook the Bearcats here. And I think Westbrook gets it done.
2-2 Ira host 0-5 Lorraine. Now, last year, Lorraine won this game 67-66. But I think Ira is going to get a little revenge.
I think so. Playing at home, give me the Bulldogs of Ira, Coach Wall to pick up win 3 of the year. Lorraine's still trying to figure it out. Now, remember, a couple of years ago when Lorraine started 0-7, they get into district play in a 14 district, and they ran the table and then won a playoff game. So, but it's a different coaching staff, all that. So we shall see. But I do think Ira is definitely the team in this spot here. And before we get out, I do want to talk. It's probably a little bit closer to San Angelo, but it's definitely in that same general area. Robert Lee and Bront, and this is one that. Going to be a special game, and I tell you what, we'll hold off to the next segment and talk about this one more in our 6-man segment coming up in a minute. But I don't want to let the Robert Lee Bront game get away from us, because there is a ton of history, and we'll talk about that more in the next segment.
All right. When we come back, we've got more great matchups for you on the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Welcome back to the West Texas Friday Night Preview Show. Mark, time to take a look at some of the top 6-man games across the scoreboard's coverage area. And we're going to start with a great one, I think. And Rankin at 4-1 travels to 5-0 Water Valley. Can the defensive Rankin find a way against Water Valley?
We shall see. 2 of the top 10 teams. Water Valley ranks second and ranking 10th in the AP this week in Division One. So these two heavyweights going at it. Water Valley obviously favored being at home at 5-0. Rankin's had impressive wins. It almost feels like, even though Water Valley is the undefeated team, in some respects, it feels like Rankin has played a better schedule now. Whether they have or not, who knows? But for Rankin to go in and try to beat Water Valley, tough ask. Give me the Wildcats in this one. It won't be a 45er by any means. And very few of these games, I don't think any of these games in our top six this week, in our 6-man 6-pack, are going to be 45ers. But I do think it's going to be very competitive. Probably a game kind of in the 40s, maybe 50s. But I like Water Valley at home to go ahead and beat the Red Devils.
Newcastle hosts Jayton, and Newcastle's got to find a way. They lost to May a couple of weeks ago. Now they've got Jayton coming to town. Man, that's a tall order.
If this game was at Jayton, I'd say pretty well for sure 45. At Newcastle, this might be the one that, well, there's one other that may be on the board. Probably is the most likely to be 45, because one service thinks it'll be close to a 45, the other thinks maybe just a couple of touchdowns for Jayton. The Jaybirds putting their 29-game regular season winning streak on the line. They've won 20 straight overall, and they won 29 straight in the regular season since losing to Cress in 2022 in the regular season. Their last regular season loss for the Jaybirds. I don't think they lose in this spot. Jayton number 1 again this week in D2. Newcastle at number 9 in D1. I think a fun game for folks to go out and watch, but I do think Jayton just going to be too much here for Newcastle. But will be a fun, entertaining type game. I don't know that Jayton 45 something they could, but I do think it'll be a lot of fun, a lot of fireworks.
Perrin Witt hits the road to take on St. Joe. Perrin Witt at 4-1, St. Joe 5-0. St. Joe won this one by 2 points last year.
And I think it's going to be right about in that same realm. I expect this game to be tight. One service thinks St. Joe, the other thinks Perrin Witt will go on the road and win. The Pirates, this would be a massive win for them. They can get it. But again, St. Joe, another one of those teams, Stephen, that is kind of flown under the radar, just being down the street from the defending 2A2 state champion Munster. They kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit in our eastern edge of the coverage area. But St. Joe had a great year last year, and obviously off to a great start again this year. Not going to surprise me either way in this matchup. Again, another one of those games, kind of like Rankin and Water Valley. I see it like a 48-44 kind of game, maybe get to 50. I think there's enough playmakers on both sides where it's not just a runaway one way or the other.
Robert Lee takes their perfect record on the road to take on a 3-2 Bront team.
There's some great history in this matchup. Only 20 matchups in the history of Texas high school football have ever been played more than Robert Lee and Bront. I mean, separated by just 12 miles. This is the 103rd meeting all time between these two. Now, of course, to make that happen, playing in 6-man, both communities have to kind of drop from 11-man to 6-man at about the same time to be able to continue the series like this, because and it's been super competitive. I mean, you talk about how close is this? Bront 50, 48, and 4, the advantage. Now, Robert Lee has had the advantage. They've won the last 3 and 6 of the last 7 in this series. And yeah, Robert Lee's going to win this football game. They're ranked number 5 in the state. It's a short jaunt. There's great rivalry. There's great history. There's great tradition. I mean, when I started looking, I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me that there are only 20 matchups of all schools in the state of Texas that have ever played more than these two. I mean, when you really stop and think about that, when you got like now approaching 1,500 schools / teams that are playing Texas high school football, and these two have played in the top 20 all time in the number of meetings they've had. Anytime you get a rivalry like this, it's special, no doubt about it. So if you're in that neck of the woods, you owe it to yourself to go watch, because honestly, Robert Lee is a team that can contend for a state championship. You'll see an outstanding football team from the Steers.
Cherokee goes to take on Benjamin. Last year, Mark, there was 194 points scored in this game as Benjamin won 106-88.
And
The
prognosticators think Benjamin again ranks 6th in Division II, but Cherokee at number 4. The Indians got to be like, now wait a minute, we're 5-0. We haven't had a double bye like Benjamin. We've been able to line up against somebody every week, and we take care of business. To me, this may be the game, along with Rankin Water Valley. If I could just pick any game in the 6-man realm to go to, I'd go to one of those two, and I might lean this game because I tend to lean offense. And I could see this game going that way again. Now, to ever say, oh, it's going to take you getting into triple digits to win, I'm not saying that, but I could definitely see this game into the 80s or even into the 90s to get a winner in this one. Who will it be? I lean Benjamin only because they're at home, but those kids at Cherokee remember what happened last year. I mean, it's embarrassing to get 100 put on you. They're going to be out for a little something. You got to, Steven, you think about that. That nobody ever wants to see that. This ought to be a heck of a ball game. I tell you what, give me the Indians, because I think Benjamin going to have a little bit of rust on them after 2 straight byes. Not necessarily their fault, just the way the schedule fell and they couldn't get games. Give me Cherokee a little bit of an upset here.
Let's look at Fredericksburg Heritage taking on Leander Founders. This is a top-notch private school game.
Well, yes. This is the number 1 private school 6-man game in the state. Both teams 5-0. One service thinks Leander Founders a slight favorite. The other thinks Fredericksburg Heritage a big favorite of over 30 points. This game being played in Leander ought to be a heck of a ball game there. The number 1 game in the privates this week.
All right. When we come back, we'll have our final thoughts on the West Texas Friday night preview show. Welcome back, Mark. As we wrap up the show, next week we're going to be breaking down a ton of district action as all the 16 districts start district play. We've got teams tonight, winless teams that are undefeated. Some teams trying to break that winless streak, others trying to preserve the perfect record.
Last week we saw a number of teams go by the wayside in the undefeated realm. Last week we've got 35 left in the West Texas Friday night scoreboard footprint that still have yet to taste defeat, and 43 still looking for that first win of the year. We've talked about all the undefeateds versus undefeateds: Cherokee, Benjamin, Stephenville, Ruston, Louisiana, Cooper, Liberty, Greenwood, Coahoma, Littlefield, Fredericksburg Heritage, Leander Founders. 2 winless matchups this week as Kroll and Throckmorton and Round Rock Concordia at Midland Trinity.
All right. We'll see you Friday night at 10 on the West Texas Friday Night Scoreboard Show.